Hello everyone, I welcome you all to our channel Let's Learn Automation, and in this session we are going to see the array. In a previous session we have seen the control statement, all the control statement, and now let's see the array. So for array I will create a new package and will name it array. Here I will create one class and name it like program 1. Now, first of all, let's try to understand what is the need of array, why we need to learn the array, and why there is a need in a program too. So, whenever we need to store any data, like we use the variable, because variable is a container which store the data. So, for example, if we need to store the data, so at that time we declare the variable and we initialize that with any number like 10. So if we need to store the more amount of data, then we can create another variable like this, then like this. Okay, so to store the multiple data, we need to create the multiple variable and then initialize those variable with the values or the data we need to store. So for example, if there is a requirement where we need to store the marks of 100 student or 100 names, we can say that, or even we need to store the uh, days, 7 days, that is Monday, Tuesday. So at that time we'll require the seventh variable. If we need to store the 100 student mark, then at that time we require the 100 variable. So that is too much of variable and it is difficult to manage all those things. So the solution on that is what? Array. So what array does? Array are used to store the multiple values in a single variable. So by using array, we can store multiple values of same type in a single variable instead of declaring the separate variable for each value. So if we use the normal way to store the marks of 100 student, then there is a need of 100 separate variable. But if we use array, then we can do the same thing with the one array variable. So that is what the array is. We can say that array type of variable is able to hold the multiple value or multiple data. So these are the normal variable we have seen, or we know already that whenever we need to declare the array variable, we can do like integer, that is the data type, then marks is the name of variable, then square bracket equal to new is a keyword, and data type, the same data type which we have used here. And here we can mention the size of array like 100 or 10, anything. So let's try to understand this again. Data type, then name of array variable, square bracket equal to new is going to create a new memory that is for 100 integer values. Okay, then the same data type and the size. So this is the syntax of array. uh, Even we can say that data type, then variable name, then square bracket equal to new keyword, and again the same data type, and here size should be declared and semicolon. So this is the syntax for array and this is the actual example. So here what happened, a new memory is created to store the 100 integer values, or for example if we take the 10 values, then new memory is created for 10 number of values. So like for example, if we have the memory like this and it is divided for 10 integer values. For now, if we have to store the marks of 10 student, so here we can store the out of 20, so like 15, then 19, then 17, like this we can store. and we can store like is it 20 out of 20. So the thing is like it start from this memory index start from 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, like up to 9. Now the question can be that we have the size 10, okay, but still the index end at 9 because it start from 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, total 9 and 0 that become 10. So whenever we are defining any array variable at that time with the size, for example, if there is a 100 size, then that can be like from 0 to 99. So whenever we create an array variable of any size, the new memory is going to create with the particular size. And in that we can store the multiple values. But remember one thing, in array we can store the same type of values. Like we can say integer or double or even string we can store. There are something like some concepts are available like object class which can store the multiple type of data in an array, but by default array can store the single type of value. If we use the object kind of thing, then this object can store the multiple type of values in the same array variable. So we'll see that it later, but let's focus on for default setting or default type of array. So in this way, and this is what the array, and as I said, new memory is going to created and that index start from 0 to 9. So now let's see the types of array. There are two types of array. First one is a single dimensional and second one is a multi dimensional. So let's see the single dimensional array. In a single dimensional array, there are only rows. Okay, and if we need to declare the single dimensional array, so we can declare like this. So this is the one pattern by which we can declare the single dimensional array. So after declaring this type of array, if the data needs to be stored, then we can store the data like marks, that is the name of the array variable, and here we'll give the index, and we can store any value like 10, then marks 1 equal to 20, then marks 3 equal to 19. Any data we can store like this. So here the data will be stored on a index 0, index 1, index 2, and index 3. In this way we can store the data. But now we know that the size of array is 10. So the size we can say that size is what 10. So that's why the index number start from 0 to 9. Now if we try to store, like for example, if I try to execute, then I am not getting any output because I haven't write down any printing statement, but still if I execute, then there is no issue. But if I try to use the index number out of 0 to 9 like 10, and here I try to store the 21, then it will gives the exception like array index out of bound exception, because this array is able to store 10 values which index start from 0 to 9, and if you try to use the index number 10, so that become the array size is for array size 11, but our array size is 10. So that's why it says that array index out of bound exception means this array is not capable to store the 11th index value. So this is the one type of array we can store. So let's comment this. Here we can say that index out of exception. And now let's see the second type of array in which we can, or second type of declaring the array. So integer is a data type, then uh, days we can see. So here we'll take the example of string. So for, for now we'll take the example of another, like integer math marks, and we can directly store the marks like 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So this is the dynamic kind of array. It is called a dynamic kind of array because exception ex, it is dynamic kind of array because there is no size defined over here, and whatever the number we are going to store here, so that become the size of array. So currently this is of size 6 because there are 6 elements are available. So this array of size 6, if I include one more element, so the size become 7. And this we can relate like this size is 7 and its index start from 0 to 6. So this is the dynamic array. Now, where we can use this array and where we can use this array. So if we already know the size of array, okay, if we already know the size of array, then we can use this pattern. But if we don't know, or this is used for a fixed size, if but if we don't know the size in advance, or the array cannot be a fixed size, then we can make use of this array. So this is the second pattern by which we can store the array. Let's try to understand one more thing. So as I said that we can store only one data type or only one type of value in array, and if I try to store the different type of value or different type of data like 10.2, then it shows the error. Also if I try to store the string like name, then also it gives the error. By default, array is able to store the one type of data or single type of data. If we try to store the different type of data, then it gives the array. Now for example, if you had to store the different type of data, then we can make use of object. So as we have defined our integer math marks, if I need to store the multiple type of data in a single variable, in a single array variable, then I need to use the object. So here I just pray ob and control and spacebar, then I am getting the object, this first option. So let's use the object here, and values is the name of the variable. Then here I can store the multiple values like 10, multiple type of values, 10, 20, these are the integer, then even 12.22, then 23.34. Then you can see there is no error. Okay, we can store the multiple type of values, and even string value like Monday. Then character value I can use like a. So this object class, this is the class. So this object class is used to store the multiple type of data. So in this way we can use the multiple type of data in a single array. But by default, if we take the example like integer, float, then any type of data type, so at that time we are only able to store the same type of value like integer, float or string. But by with the help of object class, we are able to store the multiple type of values. So here we can see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So total size of its size of 6. So we can say that its size is dynamic and currently is 6. First, second, third, fourth, 5, 6, and index starts from 0 to 5. So this is all about the array, where by default we can store the single type of data, but with the help of object class we can store the multiple type of data too. So thank you.